What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode. Coach Joe here with Heartletics.com. I got Coach Jimmy, Coach Mark in the house. Coach Mark, you've been talking a little bit too much, right? You kind of sound like
I've got the Coach Joe syndrome.
Coach Mark. I told him cool it on the voice because it's frustrating, right? Like me and you like to talk, and especially when you have no voice, it's irritating. So I understand it. So play it safe today, brother. But today's podcast is going to be a good one. We're going to be talking about the importance of teamwork, and we'll use different sports analogies, but most importantly, I feel just like us as adults, right? Like when you get married, when you have kids, you kind of stop having that community of guys in your corner kind of helping you out. And actually, before we even dive into that, Jimmy, right? Used to play football back in the day, right? You know everything about teamwork. So I'm gonna put you on the spot first and foremost, brother. Kind of share a little bit about your story when it comes to the teamwork, about what is that like? I never played football, right? So like I played basketball and baseball, but never played football. But tell me about that team camaraderie, being a football player back in the day.
Sure. Well, being part of a team, it's kind of like, to be a successful team, you have to know each other's strengths and weaknesses, what you're good at, what your partner, your teammates are good at, and you just bring that together collectively, and it, comes for a good team. I mean, if I'm on a team and I'm the best at every position, then that's probably not a very good team. You know what I mean? Everybody has their own role in that team. And then aside from that, being part of a team, you get close with people. You learn, about them. You guys form a bond. It's like, I'm going to use like a military analogy, but you're in the foxhole with these guys. You know what I mean? And you just build a bond. It's like a brotherhood where you build a trust. Especially in football, you have to be able to trust the guy next to you that he's going to do his job. I got to do my job. I have to trust he's going to do his job. So I don't have to worry about covering this part of the field because I know he's got it. So I just worry about my part. But it's about trust, forming a bond, and just, even outside of the sport and practice and hanging out with each other. And, you form lifelong friendships through this and awesome memories. And that's one thing, like you were saying, when you get married, you have kids, you kind of lose that. You lose a lot of that camaraderie and life just takes over. I mean, some people don't, some people have their things, but I certainly did. And then, that's a big reason why I think I've been successful with Heartletics, is having that again, having it, being part of that team, having support, being support for other people, and just having people to have your back and talk to.
Yeah, I like how you said also with like, when you played football, like, if you were the best person at every position, like, hey, that's not going to be a good fit, right? It wouldn't be a good, successful team. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, putting myself playing basketball, like in high school and middle school, like I was the guy that was kind of like, shooting guard, if you want to say. So I had some good handles, but at the same time, I was kind of like a bigger guy, but I wasn't like the center. And I obviously like wasn't like, fast. So I wasn't like the point guard looking for the opportunities, to get the assist and everything like that. And I think everybody has to have their role, and I think what you said is that when we get married, right, and eventually have kids and, corporate life and everything like that kind of takes over, we stop playing the game where we kind of feel like, man, we got to do it all, right? And then what happens? It's kind of like what you just said, where, man, if I was playing every single position, maybe that wouldn't be successful at all. I mean, I always use the analogy of, because I like basketball so much, Michael Jordan. He needed to have his team members there to kind of help him out, right? Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen, all the other guys, where if it was, Michael Jordan, just him by himself versus, Detroit Pistons 1 against 5, it doesn't matter if you're Michael Jordan or you know, Joe Schmo, anybody, right? It's 1 against 5. You're going to lose every single time. And I think realistically, right, putting this back to the real world now, is that we stop playing the game. You know, we get married, we have kids, corporate 9 to 5, everything like that. We stop having the sense of teammates in our corner, you know, and the importance of playing the game and having those individual players to kind of help you out. You know, in a sense of with Heartletics, I mean, you know, you have all these different guys where I always tell everybody, Mark always tells everybody, like, hey, if you have questions, we're obviously going to give you those answers immediately. But hey, also reach out to the community group, you know, like Jimmy, I'm sure you like like different protein bars than myself. Mark, you like protein bars than myself. So just giving one recommendation doesn't do the justification, right? Having other people's feedback, other people's, you know, different thoughts and all that stuff, recommendations can kind of help somebody out. Mark, what would you have to say about this? Obviously, coming from a coach's perspective, doing everything kind of overseeing with Heartletics, seeing the importance of how, you know, Jimmy kind of mentioned about, hey, what made him really successful when it comes to, you know, his transformation was the community group, was that sense of teamwork.
Yeah, I mean, the amazing thing about the community group, and again, I'm struggling with my voice, but the amazing thing about the community group is that it's so welcoming, like right from the get-go, that I just felt immediately, like right after sign up, like a part of that family. And I remember days where, like, you know, just little things like starting off with something that made it a bad morning, you know, and like just logging into that community group and seeing the positivity and the camaraderie in there, and it like turned it around. So just having that team like in your corner really helped to like kind of, you know, alleviate, you know, the bad thing. You know, we always say it's easy when things are going easy, but when something is, you know, a struggle, when you're down for whatever reason, it could be the little things too. It doesn't have to be major life crises, but you know, we're human beings. Little things tend to bring us down sometimes. And if you don't have that team in your corner, it's very easy to kind of just say like, well, it's a bad day, screw it, I'm throwing in the towel for today. Whereas when you have everyone behind you saying, no, 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 like it's just one little thing, you know, move on, move upward, it really does make a big difference. Um, and then when there are bigger challenges, I mean, we've seen it, you know, like guys like Jeff Johns in the community group, I mean, who have really kind of, you know, had some major life challenges between work and family and different things, you know, and, you know, just the difference that you can see in him once he reaches out to the group and gets that kind of support. You know, you've seen his days like just turn around like that, you know, and mindset kind of like go from like, I can't, you know, hit my numbers today, like I'm off track, I had a bad morning, to, well, you know what, everyone's telling me to kind of, you know, pick it up from where I, you know, am now, not look backwards. And he's come, you know, and like hit his protein goal for the day, or gone to the gym when he was like struggling with the motivation to get there. So just things like that really kind of, you know, push you forward.
Yeah. And I'm gonna save your voice for the rest of this. Me and Jimmy just gonna take over. I feel so bad for you, brother.
No, it's okay. You know what? I do want to say one other thing before it goes completely, is, you know, me personally not being a sports guy, right? So I want to take this back to like the nerdy approach.
Okay.
So, you know, when you talk about like having the team, like, you know, the right pieces to fit together, it makes me think, right, in my nerd brain, of something like Dungeons and Dragons, right? Where you've got to form the right group of a party, right? The right group of adventurers together, so that what one is lacking, the other one has. So maybe you've got the one, you know, or this could be like a video game analogy too. You've got the one guy who's got the brute strength, but the other guy who's got like the, you know, knowledge or the magic, you know, mixed with the guy who's defensive and healing, you know, and you put that all together. And now anyone who's missing one piece, you've got the other guy there to kind of fill in that gap. And that's what teamwork is to me.
Absolutely. I like how you put it in the sense of the Dungeons and Dragons, because I was going to use like Call of Duty or something like that, you know,
Same,
where,
same idea.
yeah, the sense of a video game where, or just going out to war in general, right? I talk about on the Wolfpack, you know, mentality podcast, where who's your guys in your corner, right? That's looking over your shoulder, that's helping you out, right? Nobody wants to go through life just kind of scribbling on their own. But yet I feel like, if you guys ever heard the phrase, it takes an army to raise a village to raise a child.
Yep.
Why is it that like us as adults, right, guys, I think I know the answer. It's the bad wolf, it's the ego, right? And I've known this obviously from being a business owner, right, with lots of failures in the very beginning before I reached out for help. But you know, we say it takes a village to raise a child, which is 100% true. But at the same time, like, don't you feel like as men, we also need the right people in our corner supporting us, right? Helping us out? Because, you mentioned about Jeff, how at times he would reach out to the community groups, and, that's what it's there for, right? A lot of guys do that. And I love that because they have that trust, right? That bond. Jimmy, you kind of mentioned about having that relationship. And Mark, you mentioned about immediately when you got onto the program, you kind of felt that sense of love and that sense of support from everybody, which is great. Because at the end of the day, think about it going out to war, right? Mark, you mentioned about Dungeons and Dragons. Let's talk about going out to war now, right? Nobody wants to go out to war by themselves, right? You're not going to feel confidence, but at the same time, like, think about it. If I'm going out to war, I want to know, okay, first and foremost, I got some tanks, right? I got some, helicopters. I got, people in the background. I got some snipers up there, but maybe I also got, some special operations guys that's going over there kind of like helping me out. So that way, if I'm doing a mission, whatever the case may be, I'm feeling very confident, right? Knowing that it's not just me, but also I'm feeling a sense of support, knowing that, hey, at the end of the day, everybody has their role. Jimmy, you mentioned in the beginning, like playing football, you can't do everything by yourself. And I feel like as Heartletics, like that's where the strength is, like there's all these different guys in there, but we all come together to do what? Help each other out, help each other grow, so that way, life is kind of like a war zone in a sense, especially if you're on this path to become the best version of yourself. You literally have to kill yourself with those old ways, right? You're constantly, trying to defeat that bad wolf. And at times you're going to fall, you're going to lose, but I think this is the justification, that's dividing that line is, what happens when you feed the bad wolf? Well, from a client's perspective, they can either, tell me or tell you guys as the coaches, or go to the community group and say, hey, I need some help here, guys. And then typically what happens is other guys raise their hand and say, hey, that happens to me all the time. First and foremost, it's a-okay, but let's not turn a bad day into 2 bad days. And then eventually that's going to lead into bad weeks. Bad weeks turn into bad months, and then turns into bad years. And then it's this snowball effect. And I mean, realistically, guys, what's happening here in the next few weeks? 2023 is going to be here, the new year. How many times, right, do we hear from guys, oh, I'll get started in the new year. I'll get started in the new year. I'll get started in the new year. And yet they refuse to say, I need help, or have that sense of, gym partners helping them out, or anybody that's holding them accountable. So what happens? It's that, shiny light bulb syndrome in the very beginning. It's like, oh, I got this, right? They start cutting out carbs, drop some water weight because they don't understand how fat loss works. They think they know it all, right? And then typically February comes. Once again, Mark, anybody can do anything when life is easy. But when life throws you some curveballs, that's the inevitable, right? Life's going to get hard. That's typically when most guys fail and they go back to their old ways. And so I think realistically here is, in guys in general, we typically have these egos. Myself, right, as a business owner, I mean, you guys saw the post that I posted yesterday. First year in business, lost $50,000. Second business, lost $30,000. Third year, broke even. Put my last $10,000 in a business coach. But the minute I asked for help and admitted that I didn't know what to do and how to run a business by myself, like, it was that light bulb factor. Because one, it took weight off my shoulders, right? It said basically, like, yeah, it's a risk. I got to trust somebody with my hard-earned money, right? That they're going to make a promise that, hey, who knows? They could take my money and run with it. But it was a risk that was worth willing to take because the reward was so much beneficial. Jimmy, talk a little bit about, maybe your struggles when it came to your first 12 weeks, or when it came to, the year-long process where you dropped over 130 pounds. It wasn't all, sunshine and roses. There was obviously some times where life threw you some curveballs, and maybe share a little bit more about how the community came together, kind of help you during those times.
Sure. Well, you guys know my story. I was 430 pounds. I lost 130 pounds so far. So my first 12 weeks in the program, everything, was really good. I lost 75 pounds, broke the record. It was easy. I mean, I had to work for it, but it just went smooth. I mean, I did have COVID in there and a couple little things to get over, hurt my shoulder. But those were, and I just would go to the coaches, Coach Joe, and say, this is what happened. And, go into the community group for suggestions on how to get through it, that people have been through it before. And, you get tons and tons of responses, tons of support. So it makes it easier. Like you were just a minute when you were saying how you went to a business coach and then things started changing around. When you try to do things by yourself and it's trial and error, and it's a possibility you never figure it out. Or if you do, it's going to take you. That if you go for help, it's going to cut that process. I mean, how long, you know what I mean? So just I myself took me a long time to be okay with asking for help, but trust me, it's definitely worth doing it. But anyway, 12 weeks, I lost 75 pounds, and then things got really hard for me because I started having some marital problems and things like that I didn't quite know how to deal with. Stuff that I wasn't expecting were coming my way. So I had to lean on, the people in my corner. I had to lean on Coach Joe, the other coaches, the people in the community group. And there's people, that's one thing I was thinking that's so great about Heartletics. If you're not in Heartletics and you look at it, I mean, you can say that, like, let's face it, if me and Mark were in high school together, we probably wouldn't have been friends, or let's say we wouldn't be in the same friend groups.
Circles, yeah.
I was a football player, Mark played Dungeons and Dragons and, did his thing. So probably we wouldn't have been friends. But in Heartletics, guys from all different walks of life, come together, and like me and Mark are good friends. He lives in New York. I live in Pennsylvania. You live in Cleveland. And it's just a metaphor for how the world should be.
Yeah.
Because I may be one thing, Mark may be something else, but we're coming together. We're friends. We're a brotherhood, and it doesn't matter what religion I am, what religion he is, what are my hobbies, what are his hobbies, because when it comes to, we have the same values.
That was
get
actually
purpose.
that was a huge lesson for me over the past year or two. Coming from the community group, it really changed a lot of silly views that I had as far as people with different ideologies and backgrounds, like being almost persona non grata, like someone that wasn't in my circle. And Harletics really opened that up to me, where I realized like people can have those different opinions and still be like good people who are you have your back and who you want to have their back. And it really changed a lot in terms of the way I approached that that mindset, dealing with people with different backgrounds. I used to be very argumentative and angry about certain things that I've realized like there's no value in that at all. People, are going to have differences of opinions, and that doesn't mean that they're bad people, and it doesn't mean that you guys don't have common goals to work towards.
But not only that, you gain knowledge from somebody who has different opinion than you, different background, and you grow as a person by learning that, and it just makes everything better as far as the group, you as a person.
Yeah, for sure. And Mark and Jimmy, you hit the nail on the head with that, right? It's you come together because of the sense of the values and the morals, right? And what are our values, right? Hey, we just want to change the world, make it a better place for our kids and our families. Like, that's it, right? So how do we do so? Well, hey, we focus on creating sustainable habits, but also giving guys that mental edge, that emotional edge as well now, right? To build that confidence to say like, okay, hey, here's the reality. It's going to be tough, right? It's not going to be sunshine and roses every single day. Like, life's going to throw you curveballs, but instead of, you striking out by you being all by yourself, there's no coaches that's helping you with the adjustments. There's no teammates there to support you. It's like, hey, let's actually like give you the upper edge here. So that way when life throws you the curveballs, you look at it as those mental reps. So that way you're more prepared for life. No, this is a really fun conversation. I like this a lot, and yeah, there's a lot of people that are different, right? But we all kind of come together in a sense. Let's do this for the remainder of the podcast. Let's focus on one tip that we can give our clients, right? Or the Heartletics members, as far as utilizing the community group, just like one tip for them that could be that, man, I'm really glad Jimmy said this, or I'm really glad Mark said this, and then also, what is one tip that we can give somebody from the outside in? Obviously, it's the New Year's are coming up, right? Let's face it, like this is why we talk so much about the mindset, is because everybody, and actually before we get started with this, because that way it gives you guys kind of time to think, because I threw that, as like a curveball for you guys, right? So think about, what to say to somebody that's listening on the outside. Let's do this. Okay. Jimmy, you mentioned about having so much success, Mark, you can share your, obviously with yourself as well, but I'm trying to save the voice, brother.
I appreciate it.
So Jimmy, you mentioned about having all this success, lost 75 pounds in your first 12 weeks, right? Over a year, a little bit under a year, lost 130 pounds total, right? Solid transformation. But what about the people that need to hear who was Jimmy before Heartletics? I mean, I know the story, right? Why don't you kind of share a little bit about like, what happened when you didn't have that sense of support, community, and the different things that you've tried, that probably guys realistically, they're going to try honestly in the next few weeks, because what's going to happen is from now till the beginning of the new year, they're going to constantly tell themselves, hey, I'm going to get started in the new year. I'm going to get started in the new year. I'm going to get started in the new year. And then what's going to happen is just like 87% of the people that have a New Year's resolution fail before March. Let's kind of like, Albert Einstein said his best. The definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. Let's kind of save people from losing that time, because you mentioned something here, Jimmy, earlier that I think a lot of people, they need to be reminded of, is that when you have the people in your corner supporting you, holding you accountable and helping you through the hard times, you save that time, right? Time is the most precious commodity. I wish I could go back, right, and save that time to hire a business coach right off the bat. Sure, I would have saved a lot more money, but at the end of the day, I would have changed a lot more people's lives than just trial and error of just seeing what could work, seeing how to do marketing, seeing how to, advertise Heartletics. So obviously I want to make sure that the value that we're about to give right now, it's saving people's times from all the trial and headaches coming up here in the new year of trying to do things on their own. So Jimmy, and then Mark, if you're feeling up for it with the voice, maybe share a little bit about, what have you tried, in the past to lose weight?
Sure. I tried, pretty much everything there is to try. Keto, low carb, intermittent fasting, Weight Watchers, South Beach diet, and, all of them, working out. And they worked. I lost weight on all of them. Every single one I lost weight on. But guess what? Every single one I gained the weight back, plus more. And I probably did multiple of them more than one time. So I think where guys go wrong and the way of thinking is, I do low carb. I'm doing high protein. I dropped 30 pounds. I dropped 30 pounds in a month, or, whatever. That's awesome. And then, I stopped doing it. It's not just because it's not sustainable. You can't not eat carbs for long periods of time, and not to mention you're freaking miserable the whole time you're doing that.
How real quick though, Jimmy, how long have you been trying to lose weight before Heartletics?
Oh man, for my whole life, pretty much. After I was at it since my 20s, over 20 years, I've been trying to off and on lose weight. Like I said, every year, the new year was the new thing. I was going to start on the new day, or I'm going to start on Monday, or it was always the way. And sometimes I would, like I said, try the diets and I would lose weight. Then I would stop and gain it back. And then say when I got tired and wanted to do something again, I would try the same thing and lose weight. And I think you don't realize that you think these diets work, but if you look at it realistically, you're failing each time you do that. If you lose weight and you gain it back, that's a failure. That is not success. So no, that diet did not work. When I had success is when I found something that was personalized for me, that worked for me, that I was able to sustain, that worked, for my lifestyle, for my body type, that I implemented and was easily able to have healthy habits that I can sustain every day. That's when I had success. That's when I'm losing weight, keeping it off. And on top of that is having the support of the community group, having coaches in your corner, all that together, makes for 130-pound transformation. I mean,
Hey, and I think most importantly, like I don't honestly care about that weight loss transformation. Bro, who you are up here and who you are here is a completely different person. Completely different.
I mean, I was talking to my sister on Thanksgiving, and we were talking. She's like, "So great, you lost weight." I said, "Yeah, I'm ecstatic. I lost the weight." I said, "But that's not even my biggest accomplishment. I don't think. I think it's just my attitude, my confidence." She's like, "I'll tell you, I've never seen you more confident in your life. You're happier than you've ever been. You're more confident than you've ever been in your whole life."
Yeah.
And that was like, that's what I want to hear.
I think
Weight loss and looking good is good, but me as being a person, being confident, and just being a better man, that's what my goal is.
Yeah, Mark, I know you want to say something. I'm gonna jump in real quick and then
Yeah,
give
go
it
ahead.
to you. Same thing with myself, brother. So like obviously, like, yeah, I got abs, right? I got, good muscles, right? Everything like that. I worked really hard for it and whatnot. But dude, it's just like that's nothing compared to my mentality, right? Like I'm literally that type where it's just like if there's somebody in danger, like let's just go, right? Help them out, right? And it's that confidence, it's just knowing like I feel like honestly, like when you have that, that's when you're a leader, right? There's a big difference between a boy, a man, and a leader, right? I think that there's a lot of guys that are older in age, right? But like at the end of the day, like look at their habits. Are they really leading their family to success? And I know that's why you guys both got signed up for Heartletics, is because you saw it as an opportunity to establish better habits, not just for yourself, but for your family. Mark?
Yeah, well, I think you guys kind of just put together what I was going to say, which is the things that I tried before, right? Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, Slim Fast, right before Heartletics, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And like Jimmy said, yeah, I lost some weight, put it back, or some of them didn't work at all. Those were things that I did. They were not who I was. They were things that I did that were like me trying to lose weight by doing this, and that's not going to do anything in the long run because you're not changing what's inside. Heartletics completely changed who I am. And when I became a new person, then like the weight and stuff just went with that because I had a new identity. So it wasn't a matter of like, what diet am I going to do to take the weight off and, and what am I going to try next? All that stuff is not going to get you there permanently. It's going to be a quick fix that you're going to turn away from. You need to change who you are. And that's what drew me to Heartletics in the first place, is that it combined everything. It wasn't one piece of the puzzle. It was all of it. It was, yes, you're going to learn nutrition. Yes, you're going to learn training, but both of those things are irrelevant if you don't have the mindset shift and the identity shift to go with them. And that's why I think Heartletics makes a difference, over some of those other options.
Yeah, I mean, literally, guys, what did we talk about right before we hit record, right? We talked about Thanksgiving smashing, right? All pizza pie, everything like that. Like, think about it, right? did anybody feel guilty the next day? Like, no, like we
Yeah.
just get right back on track. But the old me, right, would have said, all right, I'm not going to eat anything. I'm going to try to like do this balance shift with the calories, right? Like just a bunch of cardio, try to burn it all off. And then once again, you have that unhealthy relationship with food that I think that honestly most people in America today suffer with. Let's do this as we're wrapping things up here. Let's first and foremost go around, right? What is one piece of advice that you can give to our members, right? When it comes to the importance of teamwork. And then after that, let's go right into one piece of advice that we can give to somebody on the outside end, to really provide some value for them. So that way they're listening to this and say, okay, hey, listen, maybe I'm not a client. Maybe I want to be a client, but I'm still on that fence. Hey, the new year is slowly approaching. I, just heard from Mark and Jimmy, all these past attempts of failing, right? Like, what is something that we can provide to them to say, hey, the importance of having people, a brotherhood, wolf pack, there to support you in the new year, whether it's with Heartletics or not, let's just provide some value. So, Jimmy, why don't you go first, man? What is one piece of advice that you can give to our members?
My one piece of advice would be just dive in, just let go, open your mind. Because even when I first started, and Heartletics was completely different when I started. It's 1,000 million times progressed since I've started. But it took me a while to be comfortable to make that. I was very backwards person, not very sociable, anxiety in social situations, just not confident. And I would message Coach Joe because I was comfortable messaging Coach Joe, but he would always say, message to community group, message a community group. And then when I finally started doing that, things changed for me. I just became confident, started to build. I started to be able to talk to people more and open up and just dive in. Don't feed into the bad wolf, the self-limiting beliefs, because you're doing this program for a reason, and that's to make a change. So just dive in, open your mind, go into the community group, use your resources, because that's the biggest resource you can have. I mean, anytime, like we were just talking about how many different people there are, and everybody has been through different things in their life. And whatever it is you're going through, I can guarantee you somebody in there has been through it or is going through it and can help you. So just dive in.
I love that. And what would you say to somebody that's on the fence listening in?
I would say, listen, if you really are serious about making a change, not just losing weight, not just, vanity things, if you're truly serious about changing, being a better person, being a leader, then you need people in your corner. You need people to support you. You need people that are going through it, that have been through it, that have been successful with it, and to just help you along that journey. You need something to believe in. You need something to be a part of, a purpose. And Heartletics gives you that. Even if it's not Heartletics, find something that you believe in that makes you, when you look at it, when you research it, when you talk to people in it, you'll know, just like me and Mark knew when we talked to Coach Joe. You just know, like, this is it. And we both started out, completely different than we are now. And we're both coaches now. We both changed our lives. We both have different purposes than we had before. So
yeah. And Mark, last time you're going to use your voice. A piece of advice for our members, and then somebody on the outside listening in.
As far as our members, one thing that I've learned is that there's a lot of truth to things that I used to think were cliches. And one of them is there's no such thing as a stupid question. Do not hold back as far as asking, out to the community, to us coaches, whatever, preferably the community group, because that's where you're going to get the most wide range of views. But don't hold back. That's what the community group is there for. That's what we're all here for. We want to help. We want to support. So if you have a question or, something that you're wondering about, just put it out there. And then as far as people who are on the fence, right? Let me put it this way. The only regret that I have about Heartletics is I didn't find it sooner. So, saying, oh, January's coming, or, oh, after the holidays, or after this or after that, or making a work change, I want to wait for that. That's all the bad wolf just putting you off from starting. It's meaningless, because anything you do that's an improvement over what you did yesterday is a win. So even if that means you start now, right, and maybe, between now and December, you're not as, able to make the changes, fully that you could do something. You could be starting on a path that is going to save your life, and is going to, give you forward momentum now. There is no reason to wait. It doesn't help anything, and it just sets you back further.
I love that. I love that. And here's my 2 cents, right? Advice. So for the members out there, okay, we're on this mission as coaches to help you guys become the 2.0 version of yourself. Well, most coaches, we're on that path to become the 3.0 version of ourselves, which actually has very little to do with us, and it has a lot to do with everybody else making that impact. And I challenge all members out there from Heartletics listening to this. And you guys heard this quote before, right? The fastest way to achieve your goals is by helping others along the way to achieve their goals. So that means, hey, if a member reaches out to the community group, whether you're brand new, it doesn't matter. No one's is ever going to say like, oh, that was a stupid thing you said, or, oh, that was a stupid opinion. Just, hey, voice your opinion at all, right? If somebody goes in there and says, guys, I'm having a hard day, and you just got signed up for coaching, like, a simple post of just like, hey man, like, sorry, praying for you, I hope it works out, or whatever the case may be, like thoughts, little things like that really do add up, because one, you start chipping away at that ego block, right? And I think we all have it, honestly. It's just like, oh, I probably shouldn't say this, right? And just close my lips, it's like, no, like, get in there. You see guys like Joe, right, who's going to be a coach in 2023. You guys like Brett, right, who's going to be a coach in 2023. Guys like Brian Malcolm, right? All these guys that, they go into the community group not just to get help that they need, and they obviously should, right? That's what it's there for. But when other people need help, they don't just sit on the sidelines, right? It's going back to, hey, the importance of teamwork. We're all in this together. Right, Jimmy's not just the throwing the football, right? He's not just the quarterback. He's not the running back and the linebacker. Like, everybody has their different roles, but at the same time, we're all coming together, that unity, that bond. And so, if you're a member listening to this, hey, if somebody reaches out for support or anything like that, or maybe you're that type that just starts up a conversation, post a motivational, photo or something like that, whatever the case may be, to stir up that conversation. I think that's going to help you guys out tremendously with just making you feel a little bit more comfortable and confident. At the same time, it's going to provide more value inside of the community group. We're all going to rise up together, because there's days where even myself as a coach, I turn to that community group because I need that inspiration, like, I need that motivation. And then if you're somebody that's listening in on the fence, right? We have the new year coming up right now. This is all I want you to do. Okay. This is going to suck big time, right? But I promise you, it's going to really hit home, especially if you just are open-minded. I want you to go to your best friend, right? Just go to your best friend, give them a call sometime today or whatever, go get a beer with them later, and then just say, hey, listen, 2023, I want you to do this with me, right? And it's not Heartletics, it's just do this with me and go through that journey of life together of tackling the bad wolf, right? You got to find somebody in your corner that's going to hold you accountable, that's going to help you out. Now, here's the thing. Right? If your best friend in the world, right, does not want to do that with you, does not encourage you and support you on your journey, are they really your best friend? At the same time, if your best friend is going to fail or whatever the case may be, and let's say they fall under peer pressure and they say, oh yeah, but you know what? Yeah, it's just, I don't want to wake up and go to the gym. Are they really looking out for you at the end of the day? Right? They might be your buddy at the end of the day, but if your health and fitness goals is something that you're serious about, and you don't have anybody in your corner that can actually support you and hold you accountable and making sure that you're sticking with it, especially your best friend, you got to find some new friends. I say it like this all the time, right? Birds of a feather flock together. You hang around with losers in life, you become a loser. Hang around with winners in life, you become a winner. And that's why Heartletics is filled with nothing but winners. And if you don't have people in your corner that can support you and help you out, hey, give us a call. Talk to Jimmy, talk to Mark if he has a voice, and see if it's a good fit. I mean, what do you got to lose? It's a free application. Worst thing you get out of it is, hey, some practical advice on don't cut out carbs, don't do intermittent fasting, and here's the next step by step on what you should do, whether it's a good fit or not. Once again, like we know as coaches, value, 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 good karma. It's going to come back tenfold at the end of the day. So, guys, I really hope you guys got some value from today's podcast. This has been Coach Joe, Coach Jimmy. If you're somebody that's listening and you're in the community group, please tag Coach Mark inside the community group and just give him a shout out, because you guys, especially as myself, right? It's hard when you don't have a voice. So give Mark a special shout out. And as always, guys, until next time, peace out, Girl Scouts.